Warning, the age of software as we know it, or software as a service, may be coming to an end. And that means that retirement planning software doesn't get a free pass either. I'm definitely going to upset someone out there, but please hear me out. You probably been, if you are following anything in the AI space, probably have learned or heard about the fact that AI could be replacing our jobs. And what I'm about to say may be very, very controversial, alarming for many, and anybody who's been reading the benefits and warnings about AI, you know that this thing is going to play a major part in our lives. If you are a subscriber to any of the online software products out there, whether it be like Excel or some kind of system that actually does something like an application as a service, I have a strong feeling that those things are really going to go away. And if you use a CFP that uses one of those programs, then the further democratization of financial planning just becomes more of a reality for people like you and me who like to do it ourselves. Just in the past month, the systems really are getting much better. Look at today's headline on March 10th, 2026. Here's an alarming example or foreshadowing of what may be to come. It's highly possible that we may made a sentient being, which can start to have feelings and independent thought processes. It really reminds me of a science fiction movie. There was a show back in the day, late 2000s, called Battlestar Galactica. It was a reboot, and the Cylons, at least in this version, were sentient. In fact, Boomer was a Cylon. And one of the controversial topics that it was discussing is the fact that, hey, should robots have rights as well as feelings? Today, I'm going to show you at least the current incarnation of what AI can do, especially as it relates to financial planning. And I'm going to use two engines that have really become part of my personality, part of my life, part of how I plan things in my retirement arc. And those two engines are DeepSeek and Claude. And I use them both for retirement planning on terms that really are specific to me. So we're going to look at some hard numbers, quantitative metrics, but in a way that is fully personalized to you. You can ask any question of the engine, and instead of like generic charts that just present you like one template all the time, you can get multiple different outcomes and presentation styles and presentation formats that are very specific to kind of give you the narrative and story that's important for your retirement goals. So please like and subscribe. My name is Vincent. I've been planning and developing my own retirement arc and using software like Boldin and Empower. And today, I want to show you how I've pretty much abandoned those tools or software as a service solutions to pivot to using AI to do RMD planning, Roth conversions, ARMA calculations. One of the things that's a major constraint in my retirement plan is the fact that I have children that it's important to get an index score for financial planning for student aid. All of those weird acronyms that make tax efficiency really hard to do any form of retirement planning. And on top of which, I know that you have a day job. And chances are, you're not going to know what all of these things are. And to learn it as part of your process is really time-consuming, daunting, and also risky because these are topics that they don't teach you in school. You have to learn this on your own. And thank God there have been tools like Boldin that can actually help us to do that. But unfortunately, maybe for them, is that AI can replace that. So stick around. I'm going to show you a couple things that I did this is what I use for my own retirement planning. And hopefully if you're interested, you can use it too. And I'll show you how to do it. I used AI just probably like a lot of you did. It was a glorified search engine. But that was when I didn't really know how to use AI, and I think this is a skill set that is it's not very hard to do, but there is a little bit of a science around it. And when I started with OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, it reminded me a lot of this game I used to play when the first PC, the IBM PC came out. The original IBM PC was called Zork, and another game called Adventure. And in that game, it was all text-based. You can kind of interact with the application and it would respond back to you, like where you are in the game. And that reminded me a lot of that experience. It was like this weird, thing that was responding back to, whether it was responding back with any kind of intelligence was to be, debatable. But either way, that's how I interacted with it. Now, fast forward this thing can do quite a bit. It can actually write applications, and it can do things that I think we're going to be really surprised by in the future. In fact, I had heard that ChatGPT 5 was actually created by ChatGPT 4. So think about that. We are really entering that Terminator concept where the machines are now kind of making the other machines. But don't take it from me. Listen to Jensen Huang, what he thinks about where software is going in the future. AI is the perfect query robot, as he says. Software is a proxy to answers built with AI. It will generate applications in real time so you can interact with it with screens and, very common kind of interfaces like knobs and sliders. And the answers that it gives back to you, if it's some form of analysis or some form of deliverable in a way that you need to get answers, like very complicated answers, it's going to give that to you in real time. But here's what Jensen said at the Saudi Investment Forum just recently. Take a listen.
Country. In that way, it's foundational, and therefore it's part of infrastructure. What is new about AI from a computer science perspective is that the way computing was done in the past was largely retrieval-based computing. Somebody typed in a story, or somebody created a piece of art, or came up with 4 versions of a digital ad, or it's all pre-built by somebody, which is then using a system to retrieve the appropriate version for you. It's a retrieval-based computing model. Hadoop and many of the frameworks and operating systems of the past, all designed to retrieve the appropriate information for you. But today, software is going to be generated in real time. It's generative. Based on the context, based on the circumstance, based on who you are, based on the problem you asked, based on your prompt, it will generate unique content for you. Every single time, for everybody, it's unique. When you use Grok, every time you use it is different. Just based on the right, based on the prompt that you give it, and based on the circumstance, and so therefore, it used to be retrieval based. Today, it's generative, and if it's generative, then and every time is different, then you need AI factories all over the world to generate the content in real time, which is the reason why you need AI factories. And this is a unique way of doing computation, but the benefit, of course, is that everything isn't preconceived and pre-documented, and it's contextually sensible and therefore intelligent.
So what Jensen is saying is actually a little bit of a foreboding, I think, to what's to come. I mean, I think this is going to be a game changer for all of us. I think we just don't know how it's going to evolve. And that's been the biggest form of uncertainty, and why people think it's a bubble, and man, a lot of people don't even believe in it. Because 1, they don't really know how to use it, and 2, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, how is it that something you develop from a human being can actually, be alive, especially if it's in a computer? But regardless, I think that for people like you and me, let's just step back and just do a base case problem. Our retirement and where we want to be in our lives free is important to us. And a lot of this is constrained by numerics, a lot of it by quantitative numbers that are driven by policies in our government. So knowing that, this is the perfect example for how AI can optimize, because 1, it's very good at doing analytics, and 2, it can give you, as Jensen said, applications in real time that are customized to you, and that's exactly what I'd like to show you. The constant question I keep getting, or I was asking myself, not what I was asking of myself really, was, do I have enough money to retire? How much do I need? And how do I optimize all these constraints of IRMA, taxes, and also the constraint of perhaps trying to get a good SAI index score is what I think, SSI index score for student aid. And then these issues are a classic linear programming problem when you have multiple constraints and then figuring out where the optimal intersection is of those constraints. And that's what AI is great at. The other thing also is that a lot of these applications, the real reason they're very good at what they do is because they focused on those critical components, which are very, very important and many people don't understand. And to me, what I struggled with a lot of these software products is just the learning curve of how to use it. It's hard enough to understand tax law. I mean, you've seen the IRS code. It's massive. It's like this thick. But Now, couple that with the fact you have to learn a software product, which is not intuitive and not very easy, and learn retirement planning for yourself, it's just too daunting. That's why many people tend to go the route of using a CFP. Let them handle it because they're presumably experts. Let me tell you something. I'm not quite certain that is the case now, because many of the things that a CFP has a handle on that they've learned, you get access to that as well. In fact, what I'm about to show you is all stuff that was curated off of those, subject matter experts in retirement planning, as well as all the theoretical constructs of how to do certain types of things like withdrawal strategies, this concept of guardrails, which is, to me, fairly new. I didn't have any idea about it. Makes sense. But all of those kinds of ideas can be fed into an AI engine, and they can be consumed, and now it can be used. You've taught it that, and that's essentially what we're doing. It's like, I'm not teaching myself retirement. I'm teaching some engine that's much smarter than me to do it for me, so that now I can ask it anything I want that it knows about me. My engine, Etta, is what I call her, and I've done a couple videos already about it. She knows everything about me, and I'm just astonished at what she's able to produce, because what I've come to at this point in this timeline is now I have Etta every day monitoring my stock portfolios, as well as events in the world geopolitically. For example, like we're in the middle of an Iranian war. So all of those factors actually impact me. They impact everybody, in fact, because that's what's gyrating the market so well. And if you are retiring with 401k money, you have to be very sensitive to markets. So what I want to show you today is that concept of doing real-time generation of a retirement plan. And I already did this for myself. And I've consumed it, and I've actually incorporated it as part of my lifestyle in terms of what I monitor. But I want to do this for you so that you can actually see the benefits of it. And by the way, you can do the same as well. You don't need somebody like me. I mean, I'm happy to share what I've done for you, and I'll show you what I've done. It's not very complicated, although a lot of the pre-setup, I will say, is complicated, and I've done a lot of work in that to make my engine do what it needs to do. But you can get around this. I will say a couple things, though, related to AI in general, is that don't buy the base level stuff. That's really just like generic questioning, cultivating searches and things like that. If you really want to get value and output out of this, you should really pay. And I'm not saying that as a commercial. I ended up paying for it. There's a plan, like in Claude, for example. I paid for an upgrade plan. I think it's the Pro, not the Enterprise. But it was well worth the cost, because a lot of the calculations are required it costs what's called tokens, and you need to pay for that, because if you really want good output, it's worth paying. Now, one of the arguments I've seen against paying was somebody actually wrote in a comment a long time ago about why he shouldn't pay for like a software as a service product. I think, what is it? Boldin, I think, has a plan. It's like $150, $125, something like that per year. To me, that's really cheap, especially if it's going to save you hundreds of thousands of dollars, or maybe thousands of dollars in taxes from RMDs. I think it's well worth the cost. But let's say for a moment, we've been all educated that if I could take $100 today and the opportunity cost between two options is to invest it or spend it, where would you spend it? Well, to me, the cost of spending on Claude far outweighs what the cost is in investing. Not the cost, but the return on investment. Because what Claude has done for me, or Etta, I should say, Etta, Claude, and DeepSeek, what they've done for me is give me very good analysis on why I should do a certain kind of path. And if you are familiar with sequence of returns, the whole concept of being sequence of returns is not to get into a bad sequence of returns, and assuming that you are kind of landing in that trajectory, what are the best ways to mitigate that? So, common investment strategies are to hedge, or one of the things I've been recognized, and the engines did, is you can invest it in like a cash sleeve while you generate interest, but it's not at risk. Whereas on a hedge, you're actually paying carrying costs. And I didn't really know that. I know what a hedge was, but I never really implemented one in my real life. It's ironic because I'm actually in this world. I'm actually in this investment space for clients that do this stuff. Much more sophisticated than what I'm doing for myself personally. So stick around. I want to show you what I'm doing and see if this is going to work for you. Hey everybody, so I'm going to cut it here. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like this video. Part 2 is going to actually have the real demo, and I didn't want to just inundate you with too much information. Hopefully you got a lot out of this. And again, if you haven't already, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in part 2.